Wanderers, have you ever said to yourself, I followed the build guide to a T. I got all of the gear, I put in all the skill points, I followed the Paragon board, and I still don't do the damage that I saw on the screen. Why? Well, I've got you covered. We're going to share with you 3 simple tips that will get your character from Torment 1 to Torment 4 that will start you off on smashing some Torment 4 bosses and pushing as high as you need to get all of your glyphs leveled up. The best part about it is that anybody can do it. Now, you're watching some bosses in the back of the screen here. Now, by any standard, this is actually relatively slow to do bossing. Now, this character has the potential to do a ton of damage. So why is it going so slow? And why, with a character that has all of my gear set up, are the bosses not dying even faster? Well, we're going to show you exactly why. Now, these 3 simple steps that we're going to be covering today is going to be Enchanting, Tempering, and Masterworking. Now, I know these are core functions of the game, and you may have interacted with all of them, but there are so many fine little details that will really make all of the difference to make your character the strongest it could possibly be. So let's jump right in. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at this weapon here. Now, this has 2 greater affixes, and it has vulnerable damage on it. My build calls for critical strike damage. So how do I know what stats I want on my gear? We're going to come over here to Mobalytics. This is where all of my build guides are going to be. There is a really great tool that will show you exactly what stats you want. Now, all of these are going to be very, very specific to the build, and they will change, but you can use this as a reference to know what you want. So now I know that I want critical strike damage on my weapon, but I have vulnerable damage on it. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to the enchanter. We're going to click on the enchant item, and then we're going to click here, and then we're going to select the vulnerable damage to reroll, and that's wrong. Do not do it in this order. This order right here could actually potentially cost you a ton of gold. So why is that? Now, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to cover tempering. You're going to click on this little tempering tab here on the blacksmith. Then you're going to put in any of your gear. You can have 2 tempers on each piece of gear, and you have to temper them before you can masterwork. When you put your gear in here, you're going to be faced with 2 different types of tempering. You're going to have your weapons and your offensive. Then when you put in something like boots here, you're going to have utility and mobility. And if you were to put pants in, you would have defensive and utility. Now, if you put your amulet in, amulet can have 5 different choices. And this is really where it helps having a guide to reference so that you know what to put in, because these tempers can make all of the difference in how you get your character set up. So let's come back over to the guide here. On my amulet, it shows that I need Wrath of the Berserker cooldown. So I'm going to go to resources, because that's where the ultimate efficiency is. This is where my Wrath of the Berserker cooldown is. When I select this here, if I was to mouse over this, on the bottom here, it says that I have 6 chances. That means that I have 6 times that I can try to get Wrath of the Berserker cooldown. If I don't get Wrath of the Berserker cooldown after that point, we have 1 option and 1 chance, and we'll talk about that in a second. So we're going to select this right here, and then we're going to roll. Now, we can skip the animation if you want to. This will bring up that I got Wrath of the Berserker cooldown. Now, I got this on my 2nd chance here. I have 5 out of 6 left, because we always get 1 free roll. If I was to say I needed critical strike damage on this because the build guide said it, I could come over here to Worldly Finesse, and I get a free roll. I still have 5 out of 6. I'm going to roll, hit skip. I got vulnerable damage. So now I still have 5 out of 6 because I used my 2 free rolls, and I only had to re-roll once. Now I only got my lowest roll, and if you don't know how to see all of the ranges on these, I will have a video in the description of this one that will show you how to turn on all of those tooltips in order to see your range and know if you got a good roll or not. Now, if I was to say, let's say I want to get myself a maximum roll, and I really need that because it's the break point for my build, I have to get as much cooldown on Wrath of Berserker as I can, I'm going to keep on rolling. So now we're going to keep on skipping. I didn't get it here. And then as we go through and we keep on going, we're going to keep our fingers crossed and hope that I can get a better roll on this without running out of chances. Now, I got a perfect roll on my last chance here, but I only have vulnerable damage on here. I don't have critical strike damage. So what do? If you've been running the Infernal Hordes and you get to do Bartok, Bartok will drop these scrolls for you, and your equipment chest will drop too. What we're going to be talking about is the Scrolls of Restoration. You cannot use them before you used up every single charge. You can use this, and then this will be highlighted because I can now reset all of my chances. I can go back into the blacksmith, I can go back to tempering, I can go back to worldly finesse, and I can continue to roll and see if I can get myself critical strike damage. Now, here's the thing. If I was to use up every single one of these and I didn't get my critical strike damage here, I now have all of the wrong tempers and I cannot do it again. Fortunately for the barbarian, we overpower, we use vulnerable damage, and we use critical strike damage. So I've picked one where I really can't go wrong with the option, but the most optimal setup was going to be critical strike damage because they're going to be running the grandfather, and that would help multiply that critical strike damage. So all is not lost every single time that you don't hit it exactly right, but sometimes it's not the right tempers, and it really does what people call brick your gear. That means that you just take it and you salvage it, and that's that. You cannot get it back. So now that I've got the tempers on that I wanted, overpowered damage will work for this build. I can definitely keep this. I definitely want to have that cut to the bone, but I don't really want the maximum life because I want to do some big damage, so I want strength. Now is the time when you can go and enchant. You can enchant now, you can enchant after masterworking, but the first thing that you should do is definitely the tempering process, because sometimes trying to roll, especially if you're trying to roll on an amulet, so strength is really easy to get. Let's go with something hard. If I want to find another one of my skills here, I can come to this possible affix bar right up in the top here. Now, depending on what you're going to be using, if you're on a controller, that will move. It'll move right down to the bottom of the screen here. So make sure you look for the prompts to see which one you're going to be using. So if I click on this here, it's going to show me all of the possible affixes that I want, and I want to get something nice and hard, heavy-handed. If I was to re-roll this once here, it's going to cost me 96,000 gold. I re-roll it, I don't get what I want. So I'm going to hit no change and then replace the affix. Then we're going to do it again. Still nothing. Now we're at 288,000 gold. Then we do it again. Nothing again. Now we're at 385. Now you can see where this is going to start to get really, really pricey. We're now at 500,000 gold, and I haven't gotten the ones that I wanted yet. Not even close. So we're now up to over 1 million gold, and I still haven't got the ones I wanted. If I had bricked this item and I hadn't got Wrath of the Berserker cooldown at all, then I would have to just salvage this. And if I had spent hundreds of millions of gold trying to re-roll for heavy-handed, I would have wasted all of that gold. So this was a very important step that you have to do after you get your tempers on. So now comes the meat and potatoes. This is going to be masterworking. Now, masterworking is incredibly mat intensive, so you're going to need a ton of materials. It costs a lot of gold, and it is definitely something that can get very frustrating. So my best advice to you is to make sure you do it in waves. Save up a lot of materials first, and then you're going to hope that RN Jesus is with you today, or the blacksmith is feeling really good. So you're going to come over to the Masterworking tab at the very top here. Now remember, you cannot masterwork unless you have done both tempers. You see, I cannot put this in here because I don't have any tempers on it. For this amulet here, it's now available to masterwork. All uniques will not be able to have tempers on them, but you can masterwork them right away. You're going to see two different things when you're masterworking. You can masterwork level 750 pieces of gear, like this one right here, but this one can only go to 8 out of 8. When I look at a regular ancestral piece of gear, these can go to 12 out of 12. That is the bonus for having a higher item power gear. Now, why would I even want to bother masterworking something that's 750? Well, we'll get to that in just a couple minutes. For the very beginning of your masterworking process, once you have completed all your tempers and you put this in here, if you look, we get a 5% increase to all of the stats on this piece of gear. Now, think about this on a whole, and this is why this is the strongest way to increase your power on your characters. Every single stat, even if you have only done one rank, you have now gained a 5% increase to everything. That is a massive boost to your damage, a massive boost to your survivability. This is going to be the absolute best way to get your character set up for success. Now, that's not the only thing. And obviously you can see on the bottom here that there is a lot of materials that are going to be required, and they will increase as they go. Once you start upgrading here, every single rank is 5%. So we now have 15% increase to all of our stats on this amulet. That's huge. At rank 4, we get a 25% increase to one stat. Now, this is where it starts to get very pricey and it starts to get very tricky. If we were to come back to the build guide here to reference it, we know that we want Wrath of the Berserker cooldown to have an orange masterworking. Now, what does that mean? There are 3 different layers to masterworking, and you can actually see them in any of the build guides. Even if you wanted to put your own build together, you can go to the build planner here, and then you can put your own character together, and you can build one in the planner. When we go over to any item here, and we select a stat, you have your blue, then you have your yellow, and then you have your orange masterworking. At ranks 4, 8, and 12, we get a 25% increase. Now it is completely random every single time, and an orange masterworking means that you have randomly had that one 25% roll 3 times in a row on the same stat. Now the probability is pretty low, but it does happen because people get their gear completely done. They get all of their masterworking done. So when I roll my very first one here, you can skip the animation if you want to get through. Now I have cut to the bone. So I didn't quite want that yet, but we're gonna go all the way to level 12 so you can see what that looks like. As we continue to go, the next roll here, we have gotten max life. So max life is not what we're looking for either, but we can still continue to upgrade. So as we go, we are now using a pretty massive amount of Obdicite. This final one was 2,200, and now we actually got a yellow on Cut to the Bone, which if we were looking for Cut to the Bone would be great. But that's not what we're looking for here. We were looking for Wrath of the Berserker cooldown. So are you done? Do you have to now salvage the gear because you didn't get what you wanted to? It seems pretty impossible to get it on the first try. The thing that you're going to do next, now this is going to be very tricky and also very costly, is you're going to reset your masterworking. Now, the question I get all the time in comments is, that button's not there when you're on console. Well, it is. It just moves down to the bottom here. So right down the bottom of the screen, you're going to have reset your masterworking. So when we go to reset our masterworking, this is very expensive. We lose every single bit of the materials that we have put into the gear already. So all of that Obdicite that we put in, all of the Veiled Crystals, all of your Forgotten Souls, they all are gone. Then it will cost us crafting materials as well as 5 million gold. And sometimes you will be resetting over and over and over and over again. But there are methods to doing this the right way. So if we were to go ahead and hit confirm here, you remember the very bottom piece here, it is very cheap in the very beginning. So if we were to start here and we were to start upgrading to rank 4, and I got Wrath of Berserker cooldown, great, that's exactly what I want. So now is my chance to actually continue. So I'm going to continue on, and when I get to rank 8, I did not get it. So what do? Now I reset. I reset here, I re-roll, and then I'm going to just start back over the process here. So now you can start to see how it starts to add up. I got Wrath of Berserker cooldown again, and then I'm going to keep on going, and then hope for the best. And we didn't get it again. So now you reset, and then you go again. So it does get very expensive. So make sure that you save a lot of material, save a lot of gold, and then go in and work on one piece at a time. Now, the first thing that you're going to do is definitely not this. This is the last step that you're going to do. The first thing that you're going to do is that you're going to take every single piece of your gear all the way to rank 12, even if it's not the best piece of gear in the world. Now, why is that? If we were to take this piece of gear all the way to rank 12, you know, we were spending thousands and thousands of Obdicite. But the good news is, at rank 12 here, if we were to come over to the salvage here, and we were to salvage this piece of gear, if you watch the materials that we get back, we actually get back all of the Obdicite that we put into it. Now, Veiled Crystals, we don't get back all of the Forgotten Souls or any of the other materials, but we do get back all the Obdicite, which does make it very easy to go right back in and masterwork the next piece of gear. So that is the reason that you do want to take even something like this here, where it's only 750, and I went straight to level 8. Now, do you want to reset those? Probably not. All of the stats on 750 are going to be lower than 800, so this isn't something that you want to invest a lot of gold in or a lot of materials, but you do want to get that masterworking done because you do get the increases to all of your stats regardless. So what is the most efficient way to get your character set up? Everything straight to 4, then take everything to 8, then take everything to 12, and now you have set your character up to be the strongest that it possibly can be at that time, which means that you can farm faster, which means that you get more materials faster, which means you can masterwork better. Then you're going to pick the most important pieces to your build, and that's when you're going to start working on re-rolling that one specific piece. Then I would highly suggest you only try and get a double masterworking roll. Then after everything is in a double, then you can re-roll and try and get your triples. Now for the doubles, they're going to look just like this here. I rolled Hammer of the Ancients twice. I missed on the third one, but then I left it right there. I got my yellow, and then I got another blue. Same thing with this here. I got the 2. So I'm now slowly working my gear towards what I want, but it's not done yet. And it's far from done. So I have only blues here. I have a yellow here, I have only blues here, only blues here, and only blues here. This is why, when I was talking about the bosses at the very beginning, why they seem like they're dying a little bit slow. Now, this build with this has the potential to hit for upwards of 10 trillion damage, but I have to get the right masterworking done and the right stats. If you're looking for a great guide on where to get all of the best gear in the game, I will have one in the description of this video that we just posted. There is a ton of different ways to get yourself some guaranteed greater ancestral gear. Now, because masterworking is so specific to the one stat that you need, having multiple GA gear will help. But does it make or break your build? Absolutely not. Can you clear all of Torment 4 without multiple GA gear? Yes. This build right here has already cleared Pit 100, nice and fast. I had so much time left, and I'm wearing a 750 piece of gear. And the only piece of gear that I have that has 2 stars on it is this one and this one here. That's it. So you do not need to stress about finding better gear. Those moments should be a super exciting one where you finally get to upgrade something, but not stressing about nothing dropping. The game is super fun when it's relaxed. You get to go out there, find your gear, farm with some friends. If you don't have anybody to farm with, you should hop into Discord with us. It is absolutely an amazing place. The link will be in the top of the description of this video. There are people there playing every single day together. They're trading, they're in voice chat. There's people asking questions and answering questions inside of all of the class chats. I'm telling you, you are missing out if you don't hop in. The last thing that we're going to touch on is going to be the materials, because like you saw, materials is very, very challenging to come by because they cost so much. The good news is you can come over to your stat side here and you can look and see where each of the materials come from. So the Forgotten Souls, Legion events, Tortured Gifts and Hell Tides, cash rewards from the Tree of Whispers, Infernal Hordes, the Undercity Cross, the Dark Citadel, and bartering from the Mercenary Den. Now, the Mercenary Den is actually a really great place to get a lot of material. That will only come with the expansion pack, same with the Karas Bazaar and the Dark Citadel. However, the Legion events are probably the most lucrative spot that you can go. On Torment 4, you get 200 Forgotten Souls, and you get to stand there for maybe 3 minutes, 4 minutes. It's probably the best place to go. Now, they're on about a 20-minute timer, so you just pop open your map, you see Legion event in 2 minutes, then you're just going to find it on your map, and you're just going to go park yourself at the Legion event, and that will be 200 Forgotten Souls, nice and easy. Set a timer, go to helltides.com, use that as a timer. That will allow you to consistently refresh your Forgotten Souls. This season, now gold is definitely lacking because there has been a lot of really great fixes that came with this season. There's not an infinite amount of gold out there. So how do you get gold? And then how do you get Obdicite? Now, Obdicite this season actually doesn't really feel like a bottleneck. It feels like we have a ton of Obdicite because the new and updated Infernal Hordes is absolutely insane. They drop so much Obdicite, and they're actually dropping a ton of gold. If you were to just run a normal one on Torment 4 and get a minimum of 1200 Ether, that'll give you about 20 to 25 million gold and about 10 to 11,000 Obdicite. On top of that, you saw that you get all of your other materials, you get gem fragments, you get Forgotten Souls, you'll get Veiled Crystals. So this is a really, really great all-around farm in this season. So make sure you go and you do not miss out on the Infernal Hordes. That's all I got for you today. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, make sure you share it with your friends. Thank you everybody for watching. I'm live every night. I'd love it if you stopped by, said hi, theory crafted with me. Catch you on the clip side.